When you're lost in the wilderness, the last thing you want to see is a thin, pale creature crawling towards you in the distance. Let's hope you can outrun it. This is Darkness Prevails, the best place to share your creepy true stories with the world, because this world is a strange one. Now, we've talked about skinwalkers, wendigo, the rake, and flesh gates, so what's the difference? And what is a crawler? Let's clear up that mystery right quick. A skinwalker is a shaman or witch doctor who can shapeshift, though not always completely. A wendigo was once a person who has been possessed by a ravenous spirit. The rake is a creepypasta creature that looks like a hairless human dog thing with claws. And a flesh gate is an extremely thin creature human in shape. Tonight, though, we're talking about crawlers, a general term which here means any vaguely humanoid creature that crawls on all fours. You might remember such creatures from the movie The Descent. Before we begin, remember, you can share your true stories with me using the links in the description. I'm looking for possible boogeyman stories and the strangest things you've found in the woods. Also, consider buying one of my shirts at morbidmonsters.com. It really helps this channel. Now, real quick, here are the first 5 interesting comments from my previous full video. Arctic Ranger AJ says, "Can you do some more pizza stories?" AJ, I can certainly do some more pizza. 3 times a day, in fact. Batman 1999 says, he thrusts his fists against the posts, but still insists he sees the ghosts. I'm gonna get a permanent lisp if I keep saying that. Kane7ify says, Kardashians? How dare you compare demons to Kardashians? The demons deserve way better than that. Gwyneth Mayo says, have you ever wondered if pigeons have feelings? No joke, I once ate a pigeon. But that's a different story. And GCK Mimi says, I love demon stories. Get the holy water and salt, y'all. Let's head on over to Overwatch, where there's an endless supply of salt from the never-ending salt mines. Alright, let's get to crawling around on these scary true stories. Number 1. The Creature of McCullom Lake, McHenry, Illinois. Submitted by Guys in a Basement. I'm a quarter Native American, so most of the stuff about these historical cryptids and monsters are quite serious to me, close to home. And personally, I've had my own occasional sightings that have been occurring since the past year. My friend Ryan has said to have seen it along the bike trail near his house. The same trail we used to film a cringy food review on our channel, 12 Guys in a Basement. Let me give you a little layout of the area. From my house, there is a 2-mile-long bike path that runs through both our neighborhoods. If you ride your bike half a mile up the path, you'll find yourself in the middle of a vast open park. And since the trail is facing north, to your left is a beautiful lake known as McCullom Lake, Illinois. Well, that's the area where he had claimed to have encountered it. To this, I never took him seriously, I'll be honest with you. But that wasn't until I saw it for myself. You see, we were in the middle of doing something we were always doing in our free time, filming stuff for our YouTube channel. Specifically, the 3rd episode of Carl's Ghost, in the middle of a cornfield. It was right next to an abandoned house lot in the middle of the woods, which is just located next to the lake. While filming the first scene, I noticed at the corner of my eye a figure that appeared human in shape. I thought it was just someone walking where we were, maybe a jogger or hiker of some sort. But then I noticed the vague figure wasn't on 2 legs, they were on all 4s. I thought maybe they were trying to weird us out, if it really was a normal person. I never once thought it was some creature or anything inhuman. It emerged from the empty cornfield on hands and feet, and it walked onto the road, just a few yards away from where we were both standing. And as it emerged, we got a better look at it. Keep in mind though, it was pitch black outside when we were making the video, so all I could see was the thing walking back into the darkness on the other side of the road, given the fact that its horrific features were exposed under the nearby streetlight. Alarm bells in my head went off, and as I was so suddenly horrified, I told Ryan right away that there was something crossing the road right behind us, and that we needed to get out of here, now. He laughed, saying that I must have been screwing with him, but he eventually saw my ghost-white expression on my face, and he agreed that we make one more scene and then we get out of the area as soon as possible. Skip ahead a few days, and as ridiculous as it sounds, I found myself wandering through those same woods, looking for my sunglasses that I had left behind the previous night. And to be frank with you, I think I was kind of curious. I think part of me wanted to see it again. Maybe it was dumb. I had this gut feeling telling me that I wasn't alone when I was out there, and red flags told me to get out of that area once again, telling me that finding my sunglasses wasn't worth it, that seeing this thing again up close wouldn't be a good idea. What I found next shocked me. There were bare human prints that looked like someone was walking barefoot, only the toes were thin and ended in points. That's when the same stench of rot and decay hit me like before, like a freight train barreling toward me. I came to my senses real fast and realized that I shouldn't be here. I got the heck out of Dodge before I saw that thing again, this time too close for comfort. Number 2. The Screaming Ones, submitted by Horror is Addicting. These occurrences take place in my new home in South Carolina. For some backstory, it was the year 2006 when I moved into my current living space. I used to be an avid outdoorsman, used to anyway. That was until I heard a story from a distant acquaintance that has thoroughly freaked me out enough to keep me out of the woods for a while. Here's his tale. I was out with a few friends for a get-together for a friend of mine. He was going to leave for college in a week, so everyone wanted him to go out with a bang. We were having this get-together in some private property that one of my friends owned. My friend's family, anyway. The few friends that were there were Brandon, Kyle, Alfred, and myself. We often used this property to drive around on, using our ATVs or dirt bikes. We drank for a while, quite carelessly. Eventually, one of us had the idiotic idea to ride our ATVs around while heavily intoxicated. I sluggishly went along with it. Someone had to be able to watch and make sure nothing happened to the others while they did it. But it had to be me. I had drank the second least to Brandon. As we drove further, a sound that I could still not describe perfectly to this day was heard. A sound that began to become more prevalent as we drove further into the woods. This sound became so overbearing at one point that it covered up the loud noise of our bikes. Eventually, we were all on the ground screaming and covering our ears in pain and torment. No matter which direction we ran, even out of the woods, the sound only grew louder. Soon, the sound came more clear, and it was like a scream. Then I saw something that I'd never forget. These animals, they looked like a pale light-grayed humanoid type creature. They had to have stood at least 4 feet at the shoulder. The screaming noise had ceased to stop. The creatures surrounded us as the ringing in our ears persisted. They crawled around us on all fours, and soon another one came before them. It was much bigger than the others. It stood out like a sore thumb. Its muscles were more toned and larger compared to the others, which looked more malnourished. His mouth was wide open, bearing long, sharp, needle-like teeth. With its mouth open, the big one began to make a clicking sound, something that seemed to have been understood by his smaller companions, like it was telling them what to do. The moment they began to come towards us, we all stood up and ran so freaking fast that we would be feeling the sores in our thighs all week. But it didn't matter. We were going to make it out of there, away from those crawling things. But due to the confusion of the screaming we heard before, that deafening, inhuman sound. It threw us off track. We did run together as a group, but we ran in the opposite direction and eventually stumbled upon a pit. A pit stacked to the brim with bones. Someone behind me said, "Oh my God," while others could barely breathe at the sight of it. And then we saw what appeared to be human bones. We not only went the wrong way, but we went the worst possible way we could have. The stench was so nerve-wracking that I wanted to just faint right then and there. Then, the friend whose family owned the place finally got his crap together and realized where they were at, or at least the direction we needed to go. We ran, following his lead, until we finally broke the tree line, finally back to safety. The weirdest part is, when we did get the courage to go back out there, we never could find those creatures again, probably for the better. But we couldn't even find the pit or bones we had seen. Part of me wants to believe that they're gone, that they buried what they had left and escaped this area, for God knows what reason. But part of me thinks we stumbled upon some sort of dimensional rift or something, into a place where these creatures existed. Perhaps a parallel world, similar to ours physically, but with far different inhabitants. I don't know. I hope it all was just the drinking we did. I pray it was just the drinking. And that was the story. I've come to believe this story more and more each day, because lately, at night, I've been hearing a screaming sound. It seems to be drawing closer to my home every night. It scares me, and when I ask people about it, they tell me the usual, saying mountain lions often scream like that. And I hope they're right, because I don't know how much longer I'll be able to live out here. Every night I sleep a little less as the sounds get a little closer. I expect any day now that I'll be hearing something clawing at my door. I'll be moving back in with my parents soon. Wish me luck. Call me a coward, but I don't want any part of this. Number 3. Hellish Vampiric Creature. Submitted by Tyler R. This happened about a month ago, December of 2017 to be specific. A while ago, I posted about my encounter with a strange pale creature in the woods behind my house. I had prayed that I would never see it again, but unfortunately, I have, and I think my initial belief that it was some sort of fleshgate or rake-like creature was dead wrong. I was staying at my mom's for a while. It was about 10 p.m. when I decided to go to the gas station a few blocks away. There is a small forest behind my mother's house, and I decided to cut through the path in the woods that would make the trip much quicker. The whole time I was walking, I felt as if I was being watched. The woods, though, were completely silent, the only noise really being my feet crunching through the leaves. Apart from the uneasy sensation, I got to the gas station fine. I bought a 6-pack of beer and trekked back through the woods. About halfway there, I stumbled upon a strange sight. Lying on the ground, there was a small mass that certainly wasn't there before. I shone my phone on it with my flashlight and saw that it was a decaying groundhog. The odd thing was there was no blood anywhere, but I didn't see any sign of what may have attacked it, and I was beginning to think this was due to a disease or just old age, until I noticed the 2 holes in its neck. Holes that were stained red around the edges, as if blood used to be there, but now the creature, or what's left of it, was hollow. As if on cue, I was hit with this foul odor that nearly overwhelmed me, and then I began to hear movement. It was right behind me, twigs snapping, something shuffling through the undergrowth. I spun around to see what it was. Anyone would have, but when I saw it, I regretted my decision to look immediately. It was maybe 5 feet tall. It was deathly thin and pale. In its hand was another mass of fur, maybe another groundhog by the looks of it. But something told me that wasn't enough of a snack for it. The most striking feature on the thing were its glowing orange eyes, and for some reason, although I wanted to run, I found myself petrified to the spot. Maybe it was a smile, maybe something else, but the crevice of its mouth formed into some kind of devilish angle, disturbing me to my very core. And then, I think it tried to speak to me. Oh God, the way it sounded. It was the most chilling sound I've ever heard. It dropped the groundhog and landed flat on its palms, now on all fours, as if standing wasn't its natural way to do things. What happened next? It's what rocked me to my core. Huge, leathery wings sprouted from its back in an unnatural and almost unhealthy-looking way. I don't know how I didn't see them before. They were huge, probably 12 feet across by my estimate. Later on, when I would recount this story, it would remind me of the thing from Jeepers Creepers. It looked as though the wings were hidden under the skin of its body. I managed to snap out of my trance, and I chucked a beer at it and ran home as fast as I could, but I could hear faint flapping sounds behind me, which I can only assume it was the creature flying after me, though I didn't dare look back. You look back and you're a goner. You slowed down for the sake of curiosity, and it's over. As soon as I got in the door, I tripped over the steps and dropped the beers, which I somehow cared enough to hold on to all the way here. I immediately locked every door and window in the house, staying up all night. My mom and sister, while they were awake, they looked at me like I was insane, but I know without a shadow of a doubt that what I saw was real, and that's why I laid there shaking the entire night instead of drifting off to sleep. The next morning, I went back to the woods. With daylight upon me, it made it easier to have courage for this kind of thing. I found the spot around where I saw the creature, and all that was left were animals. Rotting, half-eaten animals everywhere. Rabbits, birds, squirrels, and groundhogs. Just like the night before, there wasn't a drop of blood in the entire area, and I can say with certainty, judging by the holes in their bodies, that that same creature had taken them. I don't know what it is that I saw. Its shape and proportions would suggest a gargoyle-like creature, but one with vampiric tastes. I'll never go back into those woods again, period. People always say monsters are myths. After what I saw, I can say it's no myth. It's a fact that beasts lurk in the shadows. There are things that go bump in the night, or more so, crawl in the night, and I just hope no one else has to see them. But I'm sure there's one where you live, lurking in the woods, maybe just outside your window, maybe closer to you at this moment in time than you'd like. Number 4. Why I Stopped Hauling Junk. Submitted by C. A few months ago, in the fall of 2017, I'd lost my job as a tow operator for a higher-end company. My boss told me that due to me living over an hour away from work and not enough work to go around, I would lose my position with the company. Now, I'm a pretty easygoing guy. I kept my head high and thanked him for the opportunity, and I took my leave. A few weeks went by. I had some small jobs here and there, but nothing serious or long-term. I was starting to get discouraged, even desperate. I'm 23 and I'm a college dropout. I live at home and help my handicapped mom around the house. Working blue collar has always been my thing. I'm good with my hands. I solve difficult problems with ease, and I really enjoy working long hours as I really don't have anything else going for me. So, towing things around really fits. I know a few guys who own their own tow companies, yet it's a very seasonal industry here in Minnesota. Anyone who's been in and around Minneapolis could tell you, the tow trucks are in full force in the fall and spring. When the college kids come from out of town and usually park in the wrong areas, that's when the business is driven. Yet, in winter, work is scarce. Kinda goes with the weather, you know? And the weather comes with the season, most of the time. If it snows good, I'm busy. If not, I'm out of luck. You may think this has nothing to do with what happened to me a few weeks ago, but it helps you understand why I went where I went and what convinced me to go and never come back. After filling out many applications, an old acquaintance finally offered me some work. Bills were getting late, I needed work and he had some. The job was pretty simple too. Pick up 2 cars a night, do some paperwork, drive a few hours to the drop location, bring the truck back and go home. Simple enough, but only $50 a night. I didn't exactly care much. I needed the money, and I wasn't going to make any just sitting at home, so I readily accepted the job. I show up to the guy's place. He's got an F-650 flatbed tow truck ready for me. Now I know my way around a rollback, so really no instructions were necessary. By the time I start heading to the pickup location, it's already getting dark. Here in the northern USA, it usually gets dark around 5 p.m. this time of year. I don't mind the dark, it just makes life harder, as I have to hold a flashlight while I'm working. Either way, I was in no position to complain, so I got to work. A few minutes later, I'm loaded and ready to go. I get my GPS set, and I hit the road. My drop point was a good minute outside of Red Wing, Minnesota. It's a nice town. There's a shoe company that started there and it brings in a fair amount of tourism, but nothing serious. Anyway, it's a 2-hour drive to the drop point, so I'd spend about 4 hours just driving alone. The drive there was nothing special. Lots of open country roads, a few stop signs, but really nothing worth seeing. I get past Red Wing and I see my location. A real load of nothing special once more. It's pretty much a few acres of land, filled with cars claimed by insurance companies that's fenced in, with a gate up front and a combination lock holding it shut. Upon my arrival, I immediately noticed how dark and quiet it was. Only a single light coming from a shed that's maybe 100 feet from the gate. It wasn't just dark, but eerie as well. Not creepy like an abandoned house creepy, but I definitely noticed a weird feeling creeping up the back of my mind. I wasn't really in the mood to explore. I was just looking to do my business and go home. I parked my truck and hopped out to get the 2 cars unloaded, and that's when I noticed the sensation. It wasn't the eerie vibe I'd noticed when I unlocked the gate. It was more of a gut feeling that was screaming, "Hurry up and leave." Needless to say, I put a bit more hustle in my step than usual and got out of there. The whole drive home, I couldn't stop thinking about how that place had made me feel. I've been in and out of the woods all my life, gone camping in forests that were darker and older than some dinky lot of cars, but why did such a plain Jane lot give me the creeps? The next day, I'd forgotten all about the feeling from the lot. I showed up for work, loaded the truck, and I was on my way. I arrive in a timely manner, and as soon as I get out to open the gate, I notice the strange feeling again. Only tonight, it felt as though I was being watched, better yet studied, by something or someone unseen. I continued with my work like normal, only I was hindered by the feeling of being watched, and I was beginning to feel worried. I kept searching my surroundings for some fox or feral cat or something, anything that might be observing me and causing me to feel this way. But there was nothing. The flashlight beam produced no eyeshine from any critter that would be out and about. I finished my work and returned home for the night, never seeing anything out of place. My third run was different. I had to make the trip twice in a single night. I think it goes without saying how I felt about that idea. I did the usual and pulled up to the drop point, hopped out to open the gate, and I heard rustling. It caught me off guard as the area was pretty desolate. Not much ever came or went with the exception of me. I froze and listened. What I heard almost sounded like something stumbling among the cars. Bump, bump. It was faint, distant, but still it was there. I was a bit unnerved, but relieved when I remembered I had my pistol in my bag. I usually bring it everywhere, but more for the comfort of having it with me than the idea of ever needing to use it. I pulled in and stopped when I saw what was in the distance before me. A few cars had the doors open. They were unharmed, but the doors had definitely been pulled open. As I went about my work, I heard the noise again, the bump, bump, and the sound of gravel being displaced. I understood what was going on in that moment, or so I thought I did. Freaking crackheads, I muttered under my breath as I started to grab my pistol. I grabbed it out of the truck and tucked it in my waistband, waiting to hear the noise again so I could make my presence well known to whatever drug addict was living in these junk cars. But for a few minutes, everything was quiet. And then the sound came again, only off to my left this time, and decently nearby, too. "Hey," I started. "I'm not here to bother anyone. Go about your business and I'll be out of here shortly," I yelled. There was no reply. They must have been high or something, I thought. I closed the gate and leave whoever was in there to do what they were doing. 4 hours later, it's about 1 in the morning. Later on that night, I had forgotten about the sounds I heard from the lot, and I was exhausted. I pulled in, opened the gate, and got started when I heard a car door forcibly close. I froze, cold sweat forming under my stocking cap. It all came back to me in that moment, and I was more awake than ever. Whoever was there with me was probably trying to intimidate me, scare me. I get it though, druggies don't want anyone snooping around. I stood there, petrified at what the outcome could be. I didn't want to harm anybody, and I didn't want them to know that I was armed. I just wanted to get in and get out. I wasn't about to go back to my work, where I'd be stationary with my back turned to the outside world. So I decided that I was going to confront this person and let them know I'm no threat, and to just let me be. I grabbed the flashlight and my gun, and I went to where I heard the door close. Hello? No response. "Hey, man, I just wanted to let you know I'm just here to drop these cars off. And then I won't be back. So let me be and I'll let you be, you know?" I backed myself to my truck, assuming we had made peace. I dropped my load without hearing anything, and I thought, cool, there won't be any trouble, I guess. As I went to lock the gate, something passed in the light of my truck's headlight. I paused, hoping to get a glimpse of the person back there, to maybe give the police something to go off of, so I can return without incident in the future. I was about to leave when something that I didn't expect caught my eye. Antlers. It's just a deer, I thought. I was freaking out because of a deer. That had made my night. I'd frightened myself over some deer passing through the lot. I broke out into a hysterical laughter inside the truck. Then I had an idea, one that I should have thought over more, one that would become a decision that I deeply regret. I was going to get out and go see if I could get a closer look. Judging by the size of the rack, that would have been a huge buck. I had to see it. My enthusiasm for nature and wildlife overtook my thought processes, and I started to make my way towards the area that I saw it. As I was about halfway across the lot, the truck's headlights illuminating most of the area, I stopped. How could a deer open doors? Why would a deer even be out here? There's no food, just gravel and cars. And why would a deer make any noise at all? Typically, they're quiet animals. Then, the one thing that really struck fear into me crossed my mind. The door that had slammed shut. A deer would not have done that. They wouldn't have climbed out the door, then shut it. Not unless the deer was frantic, blindly fleeing a predator or something. I really didn't wish to go any further. All I wished at that moment was that I had ignored what I saw and just got out of there. So I started back towards the gate when I heard a loud thud coming from my right. I was horrified. I was in the middle of the large lot, potential hiding places for a predator all over. I shone my light to where I heard the noise, but there was nothing at all. I didn't hear anything either. I've been outside enough to know that silence is never a good thing. I drew my weapon, held it tight, ready to defend myself from whatever may come my way. I headed toward the gate, but I was slow, cautious, and very deliberate. I was careful to make each step quiet as possible. I listened for anything else, anything at all. When I was just to the gate, I heard it. It wasn't human, and it sounded in pain almost. There was heavy, labored breathing and shuffling, like something trying to quickly limp in my direction. I wasted no time waiting for whatever it was to get near to me. I ran as fast as I could, and I jumped in my truck. What I saw as I was backing out of the drive, what was now there crawling at the gate, will haunt me forever. It was like a mangled deer. It looked like it had been hit by a car, but there was no fur, just skin, pale skin, pulled tightly over its bones. No visible muscle mass, literally just skin and bones. The most terrifying part was the roar or howl it let out as it watched me drive away. It sounded like some sort of demon howling in pain. It still haunts me to this day. It was a sound I'll never be able to forget. I'm not a believer in the supernatural, but I do understand there are parts of this world, parts that are better left in the dark. And number 5, The Creature in the Forest, submitted by Jed T. There were these woods that I used to love when I was younger, because I always felt that the forest was a refuge away from my trouble. But apparently, it wasn't. I was 12 years old when this happened, and I was with a friend. My friend was also kind of like me, trying to escape our troubles. We were out walking in the daytime through these woods, when suddenly I heard branches breaking and shaking, and their leaves rustling above us. We stood still like statues and looked up to see nothing at all. We were confused and scared, but we decided to press forward, curious, when we came upon a black pool. We couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Suddenly, my friend grabbed me by the shoulder and pointed out across the pool. I was shocked at what I saw. It was pale, small torso, long limbs. It was on all fours drinking from the pool, like the image of a person stretched out. I pulled my friend by his arm, and we ran. We had reached the edge of the forest when we looked back through the trees to see a slim figure not far behind us, crawling toward us at an unnatural speed. We bolted it back inside and immediately told my parents. Of course, they said it was a load of bullocks and laughed. This was frustrating. My friend and I went upstairs to bed, realizing it was late in the evening, but after that, we didn't really plan on getting any rest. Instead, we watched out the window, and to our horror, later that night, we did see the same thin, dark figure. It looked up at us, pointed its eyes right to ours as we looked out the window. It raised a bony finger up to its dark lips and seemed to hush us. We closed the curtains and vowed to never return to that particular forest. These things that crawl on all fours. These creatures that lurk in the wilderness, hunting on whatever small game they can find. They're out there. And if you're unlucky, you might end up stumbling upon one of them. Well, that's if you even see them. These crawling creatures, they can be very quiet, very stealthy, which means the first sound you hear of them could be the last sound you hear. Good night. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and be sure to send us your scary stories using the links in the description. Also, check out morbidmonsters.com to order some cheap merchandise. Every sale helps this channel. Thank you for listening. Stay safe out there, and stay creepy.